What if the reason money keeps leaving your life has nothing to do with how much you earn and everything to do with who you are when money touches your hands? What if more money is actually making your future worse, not better? Money disappearing is not bad luck. It is not the economy. It is not your job, your boss, or the timing of your life. Money disappears because it follows a law older than markets, older than banks, older than modern finance. Money without discipline will always slip away. Welcome back to American Wall Street. This is not a channel about getting rich quick. This is a channel about understanding the rules that quietly decide who builds wealth and who keeps starting over. Here is the uncomfortable truth most people never want to face. Money does not fix your life. Money does not correct your habits. Money does not save you from yourself. Money only amplifies what is already there. If discipline is missing, money becomes fuel for destruction. If discipline is present, money becomes a tool for construction. You have seen this story play out countless times. Someone wins a lottery and ends up broke. A young professional doubles their income but still lives paycheck to paycheck. A business owner has one good year, spends like it will last forever, and collapses the next. The pattern is so common that people have stopped questioning it. They say that's just how life is. But it isn't. It is how life behaves when discipline is absent. Money is neutral. It has no morals. It has no wisdom. It has no restraint. It simply obeys the character of the person holding it. Put money in careless hands and it accelerates carelessness. Put money in undisciplined hands and it magnifies chaos. Put money in disciplined hands and it multiplies quietly, steadily, almost invisibly. This is why more money rarely changes a person's life for the better. It does not repair cracks. It widens them. It does not create stability. It exposes instability. The belief that if I just had more money, everything would be fine is one of the most expensive illusions people ever buy into. Because when money arrives before discipline, it doesn't bring relief. It brings pressure. Discipline is the guardrail. Without it, speed becomes danger. Opportunity becomes temptation. Prosperity becomes a test most people fail. And failure does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks very normal. Nicer cars, bigger apartments, frequent indulgences, constant spending, and a future that quietly shrinks. This is why money disappears so easily. Not because it is small, but because the foundation beneath it is weak. You can build a beautiful house, but if the foundation is cracked, it will collapse under its own weight. Money is the furniture. Discipline is the foundation. Without it, everything eventually falls apart. Before we go any further, if you value content that challenges how you think about money, discipline, and long-term success, make sure to subscribe to American Wall Street. Your support gives this channel the motivation to keep creating deeper, more honest conversations that most people avoid, but everyone needs. The hard truth is this: money does not disappear randomly. It disappears predictably. It disappears when discipline is missing. It disappears when spending replaces structure. It disappears when impulse replaces intention. And the most dangerous moment is not when money is scarce, but when it becomes abundant. Because scarcity forces discipline. Abundance asks whether you will choose it. This video is not about earning more. It is about becoming someone who can keep what they earn. Because until discipline is present, money will come and go like water through open fingers. And the question you must face is not how much money you want, but whether you are ready for money to stay. Before we continue, here is a question for you. Be honest and answer in the comments. Question: when money disappears from people's lives, what do you believe is usually the real cause? A, they don't earn enough money. B, they don't have enough discipline. Comment A or B below. Most people get the order wrong. They believe money comes first and discipline comes later. They believe that once the income is higher, once the pressure eases, once life feels more comfortable, then they will slow down, plan better, and become more responsible. That belief sounds reasonable, but it quietly destroys futures. Discipline is not the result of having money. Discipline is the requirement for being trusted with money. It must come first, or nothing that follows will last. Money has never taught anyone how to manage life. It does not teach patience. It does not teach restraint. It does not teach judgment. Those qualities are learned long before money ever shows up in meaningful amounts. And when they are missing, money doesn't fill the gap. it exposes it. The person who cannot manage a small surplus will not suddenly develop wisdom when the surplus becomes larger. The scale changes, but the behavior remains the same. This is why opportunity so often crushes people instead of saving them. A raise arrives before self-control. A windfall appears before structure. A business takes off before the owner has learned boundaries. What should have been a blessing becomes a burden because the internal order was never built to support external growth. Money grows faster than the person holding it, and the imbalance causes collapse. True freedom does not come from having more options. It comes from having the discipline to choose wisely among them. Without discipline, more money does not increase freedom. It increases temptation. Every new dollar presents a decision: spend or hold, indulge or invest, satisfy the moment or serve the future. Discipline is what allows a person to pause in that moment and choose long-term direction over short-term pleasure. People often say they want financial freedom, but what they really want is financial relief. Freedom requires responsibility. Relief avoids it. And money cannot deliver freedom to someone who has not learned how to govern themselves. That is why discipline must come first, before opportunity, before income, before lifestyle expansion. It is the filter that determines whether money becomes a servant or a master. Look closely and you will see this principle everywhere. Two people earn the same amount. One builds stability, the other builds stress. The difference is not intelligence or luck. It is discipline applied consistently, quietly, and often invisibly. The disciplined person does not wait for perfect conditions to act responsibly. They act responsibly first and allow conditions to improve as a result. There is an old truth that still holds: those who are faithful with little can be trusted with much. Not because the universe is sentimental, but because behavior scales. The habits you practice in small circumstances become the habits that dominate large ones. If you spend carelessly when the numbers are small, you will spend recklessly when they grow. If you delay discipline now, abundance later will not rescue you. It will overwhelm you. This is why discipline is not optional. It is foundational. It is the internal order that allows external growth to remain stable. Money flows towards systems that can hold it. When discipline is absent, money leaks away. When discipline is present, money finds structure, direction, and purpose. The uncomfortable reality is that many people are not poor because they lack opportunity. They are poor because they have never trained themselves to handle opportunity. And opportunity does not announce itself politely. It arrives suddenly. It tests you before you feel ready. If discipline is not already in place, the test is failed before it is recognized. Discipline first, then money, then opportunity, then freedom. This sequence cannot be reversed. Anyone who tries to skip the first step may experience short-term excitement, but they will pay for it with long-term instability. The path that lasts always begins internally, with self-governance, restraint, and intentional choice. Until discipline becomes part of who you are, not something you promise to develop later, money will never feel secure. It will always feel temporary. But when discipline comes first, money stops being something you chase and becomes something you can finally keep. Most people spend their lives chasing a higher income, convinced that the next raise, the next deal, or the next opportunity will finally change everything. They believe the problem is external, not enough money coming in. But the truth is far less comfortable and far more decisive. The real problem is not income. It is behavior. Income is only the inflow. Behavior determines what remains. You can see this pattern everywhere once you know how to look. A person earns a modest amount and struggles. Then their income increases. For a brief moment, there is relief. And then, almost automatically, life expands. The apartment gets bigger. The car gets newer. The subscriptions multiply. The small indulgences become routine. Bills grow quietly, predictably, and permanently. Within months, the extra income has been absorbed, and the pressure returns, sometimes worse than before. This is not a money problem. This is a behavior problem. When income rises faster than discipline, lifestyle inflation fills the gap. People do not consciously choose to sabotage themselves. They simply allow habits to scale unchecked. What was once an occasional reward becomes an expectation. What was once a luxury becomes a baseline. And suddenly, earning more produces no progress, only motion. This is how people end up running hard without moving forward. They are busy, stressed, and exhausted, yet no closer to stability than before. They mistake activity for advancement. They confuse higher numbers with higher security. But security does not come from how much you earn. It comes from how much you keep and how consistently you control where it goes. Imagine pouring water into a bucket with holes in the bottom. You can pour faster, you can pour more, you can even change the source of the water, but the bucket will never fill until the leaks are sealed. Income is the water, behavior is the bucket, and without disciplined behavior, money drains away as quickly as it arrives. This is why simply earning more rarely changes a financial life. It only increases the speed at which mistakes are made. A careless habit with small numbers becomes a dangerous habit with larger ones. Spending decisions made without thought at one level become catastrophic at the next. The problem grows quietly, hidden behind the illusion of progress. Keeping money is a skill. Directing money is a discipline. And those skills are independent of income level. A person who learns to manage a small amount with intention is practicing for larger responsibility. A person who ignores control because it's not enough to matter is training themselves to fail when it does matter. This is where many people get stuck on a treadmill. They run faster every year. They work longer hours. They accept more responsibility. But the finish line never gets closer. The machine never stops. And the longer they run, the harder it becomes to step off because the cost of stopping feels too high. The disciplined individual plays a different game. They understand that progress begins not with earning more, but with leaking less. They build habits that slow spending before it accelerates. They resist the urge to let income define lifestyle. They create space between earning and consuming. That space is where stability is built. Wealth is not created in moments of excitement. It is created in moments of restraint, in the decision to pause, to think, to choose intentionally rather than react emotionally. Over time, these decisions compound quietly, just as undisciplined behavior compounds damage just as quietly. The painful irony is that many people work hardest at the exact moment they should be building control. They exhaust themselves chasing income while ignoring the behaviors that determine outcomes. And when the results never change, they blame effort instead of habits. Income can change quickly. Behavior rarely does, unless it is challenged. That is why lasting progress never begins with more money. It begins with better behavior. When behavior changes, income finally has something solid to rest on. When it does not, no amount of money is ever enough. Until behavior is addressed, income is just noise. There is a quiet mistake that destroys more futures than failure ever does. It does not look dramatic. It does not feel dangerous in the moment. In fact, it often feels justified. That mistake is consuming what was meant to multiply. Every paycheck, every profit, every extra dollar carries a hidden choice. Use it all now or reserve a portion for later. Most people never pause long enough to recognize that choice. They spend first and think later. And by the time they look up, the future has already been traded away in small, forgettable pieces. This is what it means to eat the seed. A seed is not impressive. It is small. It does not satisfy hunger today. It does not feel powerful in your hand, but it contains tomorrow inside it. When you consume it, nothing visibly breaks. Life goes on. Bills get paid. Comfort is maintained. Yet something essential has been lost, the ability to grow. Money becomes capital only when it is restrained. Until then, it is just consumption waiting to happen. Capital is money that has been protected from impulse and given a job beyond the present moment. It is money that has been delayed, redirected, and given time. Without discipline, money never reaches that stage. It passes through life like receipts through a drawer, used once, then forgotten. People often dismiss small amounts as meaningless. $5, $10, $20. They say it is too little to matter. But the amount has never been the point. The principle is, saving small amounts is not about building wealth quickly. It is about building the capacity to delay gratification. It trains the mind to respect the future. It proves self-governance. A person who saves consistently, even when the amount feels insignificant, is practicing control. They are rehearsing for larger responsibility. A person who refuses to save because the amount feels too small is teaching themselves that discipline is optional. That lesson does not disappear when income grows. It becomes embedded. This is why discipline transforms money into something more powerful than income. It creates margin. Margin is what turns stress into stability. It is the space between what you earn and what you consume. That space absorbs shocks. It softens emergencies. It turns crises into inconveniences. Without margin, life feels like a constant emergency. With margin, life becomes manageable. Margin also creates peace. Not the kind of peace that comes from ignoring reality, but the kind that comes from preparation. When you know you have reserves, decisions slow down. Panic loses its grip. You stop reacting and start adjusting. That shift alone changes how you move through the world. Discipline does not demand deprivation. It demands intention. It does not say you can never enjoy what you earn. It says enjoyment must exist within boundaries. Those boundaries protect both your present and your future. Without them, pleasure quietly turns into regret. The irony is that people often feel poorest when they spend the most. Consumption promises satisfaction but rarely delivers security. Capital, on the other hand, feels boring in the beginning. It grows silently. It does not announce itself. But over time, it creates options. Options change lives. When money is consistently converted into capital, opportunity becomes less threatening. Decisions become clearer. You are no longer forced to say yes out of fear. You can wait. You can choose. You can walk away. That is power most people never experience. Not because they lack money, but because they never learn to preserve it. The future does not improve because of one big decision. It improves because of many small acts of restraint repeated consistently. Each time you choose not to consume everything, you plant something. Each time you protect that decision, you strengthen it. Over time, the cycle begins to work for you instead of against you. Those who eat the seed stay trapped in repetition. Those who plant it create compounding progress. The difference is not opportunity. It is discipline applied quietly, long before the harvest arrives. Every financial life eventually arrives at a quiet crossroads. There is no announcement, no dramatic warning, no moment that feels historic. It appears in ordinary days, routine choices, and familiar temptations. Yet everything depends on what happens there. The choice is simple, but the consequences are not. You either drift or you decide. Drifting is the default. It requires no plan, no resistance, no clarity. You spend because it feels right. You delay because tomorrow feels safer than today. You tell yourself you will be more careful later, more intentional when things improve. Drifting feels light in the moment because it asks nothing of you. But it is never free. It always sends the bill forward. Decision feels heavier at first. It requires awareness. It requires restraint. It requires you to interrupt your own impulses and take responsibility for direction. Decision asks you to accept discomfort now in exchange for strength later. Most people avoid it because the payoff is not immediate, but decision is the only path that compounds in your favor. The tragedy is that drifting rarely looks like failure while it is happening. Life continues. Money comes in and goes out, bills get paid, comfort is maintained. From the outside, everything appears normal, but inside something subtle is occurring. Control is being surrendered, one small choice at a time, and once control is gone, options shrink quietly. People often believe the real danger is poverty or hardship. In reality, the greater danger is ease without discipline. When life becomes comfortable, vigilance fades, boundaries soften, rules that once felt necessary begin to feel restrictive. That is when people abandon the very habits that built their progress. And nothing disappears faster than stability in the hands of someone who believes the rules no longer apply. Discipline is not meant to be temporary. It is not a phase to outgrow. It is not something you use only when things are hard. Discipline is what keeps success from turning into self-destruction. The moment you treat discipline as optional is the moment decline begins, often invisibly, but always inevitably. Decision is the refusal to let circumstances dictate your future. It is the choice to give today clear boundaries so tomorrow has room to expand. Every disciplined decision is a vote for the person you are becoming. Every undisciplined choice is a vote for stagnation, even if it feels harmless at the time. What makes this difficult is that discipline does not announce its rewards immediately. You do not feel powerful after one restrained choice. You do not feel wealthy after one controlled decision. But discipline compounds quietly. Like interest, Like habits, like character. Over time, it creates momentum that feels almost effortless to those who stayed consistent long enough. Drifting also compounds. It compounds into stress, into regret, into the constant feeling of running without arriving. People often wake up years later and wonder how things slipped away. They search for a single mistake, a bad break, an unlucky event. But it was never one moment. It was the absence of decision repeated daily. Life will always test discipline when things are going well. Abundance is not a reward. It is an examination. It asks whether you will hold on to structure or abandon it, whether you will remain intentional or become careless, whether you will continue deciding or return to drifting. The future is not built by dramatic overhauls. It is built by small, consistent decisions protected over time. Discipline today expands tomorrow. Neglect today shrinks it. That equation never changes. You do not need a windfall. You do not need permission. You do not need perfect conditions. You need a line drawn clearly in your own mind. A decision that says part of today belongs to tomorrow. A decision that says discipline is not an enemy, but an ally. Drift leads wherever the current pulls. Decision builds direction. And in the end, direction is what separates those who merely earn from those who build something that lasts. Money does not vanish by accident. It leaves when there is no structure strong enough to hold it. Throughout this message, one truth remains constant. Discipline is not a restriction on life. It is the force that gives life direction. Income may open doors, but discipline determines which ones stay open. Without it, progress collapses under its own weight. With it, even small beginnings grow into lasting stability. Money responds to order, not desire. When discipline becomes a daily practice rather than an occasional effort, money stops controlling your future and starts supporting it. Lesson and practical application. The deepest lesson is this: your financial outcome is shaped less by what you earn and more by how you govern yourself. To apply this today, start small, but start intentionally. Decide in advance where part of your money goes before you spend anything else. Create simple boundaries and honor them consistently. Treat saving and restraint not as sacrifices, but as investments in freedom, clarity, and peace of mind. Discipline practiced daily becomes confidence over time. Question for you: do you believe discipline is something you build before success or something that comes after success? Please share your thoughts politely in the comments so everyone can learn from different perspectives. If you found value in this message, consider subscribing to American Wall Street. Your support helps the channel continue creating thoughtful, high-quality content for the future.